Hey there, coaches! I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play in School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. Today's call features Ryan Sizemore, Director of Ops and Player Development for the Mid-America Prospects. Ryan has an extensive background in working with tournament companies, which provides us with some unique perspective. We also talk about the debate on playing multiple sports. You can find the show notes and links to everything at playinschool.com/Sizemore. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball Talk. All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Today we're heading out to the sticks of Eastern Kentucky. Well, not too much of the sticks. London, Kentucky, which is about an hour south of Lexington. We got Ryan Sizemore from the Mid-America Prospects with us today. Ryan, welcome to Travel Ball Talk. Hopefully I didn't disparage all our listeners from London, Kentucky too bad. Hopefully they're not tuning out and writing angry letters to me. Tell us about yourself, man. How you doing? Welcome to the show, first of all. How are you, Ryan?
Yeah, doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate having me on. I'm doing well.
So I poked fun of your hometown a little bit, but we had to do this call on your landline, which I'm not even sure if our younger listeners know what that is.
Yeah,
that's a telephone that is connected to the wall, boys and girls. So you're
in the
in
rotary dial, even you have to wait. No, I'm just kidding. They would freak out if they saw that.
No doubt, no doubt. So, was I kind of accurate? London's about, would you say about an hour south of Lexington?
Yeah, just a little over an hour south of Lexington, north of Knoxville, right off Interstate 75. And then we have the Parkway that goes from Eastern Kentucky all the way out to Bowling Green, Kentucky. So I'm right there, two major roadways that kind of gives us access to the entire state.
Got it. Cool, man. So I'll tell you what I want to do is, before we get too far into this, a tweet that I saw you put out the other day. You seemed a little frustrated, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But when I saw that, I said, man, something we haven't talked about too much on Travel Ball Talk, and so we're going to get to that in a second. But why don't you give us the 30-second biography on yourself, and then kind of introduce us to Mid-America Prospects a little bit.
Yeah, so I been around the youth baseball scene for a while. Got my real start, I guess, in hosting events. Was just an area director for USSSA, moved on to baseball youth, had their event company going. Then I went on to move with the NYBC, the National Youth Baseball Championships, moved that event to Long Island, New York, and kind of hosted that and events around the country, worked with some of the biggest names, biggest teams in the youth sports. Now I'm just back at home enjoying my kids as they come up. Started, a program for youth in our area, and then I partnered this past year with Mid-America Prospects, and we merged and brought teams together. We have teams from Louisville. We got teams in central, southeastern Kentucky, and we're really kind of working that area, just the southeast, eastern part of the state, to give kids an opportunity to play baseball at a high level. So,
what age are your kids?
I have a 16, 13, 9, and 3-year-old.
Is the 16-year-old playing ball?
Yes.
And 12-year-old too?
Yes.
Awesome.
All multi-sport athletes.
All right, and we're gonna. That's a perfect segue. That's what we're gonna get into today a little bit. The other day, you tweeted out something, and I could feel some frustration I could feel a little bit of I don't know if anger is the right word, but I'll read it out, and maybe I'll try and link to it in the show notes as well if somebody wants to see it and they can follow you. But the Twitter account is Mid America Scout, at Mid America Scout, and he said just had high school basketball JV coach tell a kid he needs to start specializing in a sport now that he's in high school. Hashtag multi-sport athlete. And then you continued. Said football coach calls today. He's getting stronger in the weight room right now. And in parentheses, basketball coach doesn't want him lifting. And then in quotes, when baseball comes around, I don't expect him to be at spring practice either. Basketball coach said, be there anytime there's a basketball workout. And then the emoji with the hands up like what are we doing here? And you emphasize it about your own boys. They're multi-sport guys. So the frustration that I can pick up in your tone of these tweets is in a time where everybody, it's weird because like at one level, everybody's telling us how important it is to be multi-sport guys and well-rounded athletes. When you drill down, that's a 30,000 foot comment. When you drill down and get down at the level of the coach, these individual coaches all feel like their player needs to be specializing, don't they? What tell me what prompted this thing, this whole tweet, and let's talk about some of your feelings.
Yeah, well, it started, it had some to do with mine. It could affect, my younger children, and it wasn't just aimed at my kid. There's a group of kids at this school. There's only 2 high schools, so I'll let you, the listeners, figure out which one. But these kids play all sports. Even our governing body, the KHSAA, even has a triple threat award that they award students and try to promote students and student athletes to participate in multiple sports. Of course, the triple threat would be, they're playing in 3 different sports during the academic year and at the varsity level, fall, winter, spring. And so it's just frustrating when a kid, you don't know what he wants to do. And at this point in time, they're high school kids. They're not getting paid. They're doing this for fun, being with their friends, whether they're competitive at it or not. And it has nothing to do with playing time or anything like that. And the kids, these kids really excel at these sports. Some of them started varsity in the 8th grade. They started as freshmen in all 3 sports, or 2 out of the 3. And then this year, as they're sophomores, they're telling them, hey, look, at this point, you got to start specializing. It's like, why are we looking to specialize at this point? When they've had success, the programs have had success. A lot of the coaches encourage this, but we seem to have basketball in there. And Kentucky's a basketball state. I get it, but let's just be honest. How many, Eastern Kentucky 5'10", 215-pound white guys are going to go pro? I'm just going to put that out. Not disrespect, but there may be some. We've had some great guys. There's one playing at NC State right now, Beverly. So he's doing great. But anyways, and it's just frustrating because the kids aren't getting the opportunity because they make a deep run in football, so they don't get to see that, and they're expected to be there. A child asks the football coach, hey, can I go to basketball tryouts? He's like, look, we're in the middle of playoffs. I can't have you go get hurt in basketball tryouts. You've played for since you were however young, you played in the varsity last year, you'll be fine. Okay, carry on. And those kids aren't getting the same opportunity as the ones that are specializing, that they see all summer, all fall long, even though that these workouts, aren't under the KHSA guidelines. They're open gyms or whatever you want to call them. And those kids it's very blatant about that they're getting a little more of an opportunity. These kids come in, they're not out of shape. There is a different shape of being in football and basketball and baseball, but, these kids being the athletes that they are, it's not going to take people long to adjust. It's not like they were just sitting the sidelines either. They were in on every snap or whatever the case may be, sport they're playing. But it was frustrating to have a junior varsity coach who's, really just a lot of favoritism in playing and opportunities to the kids that worked out with him all summer and all fall. And he knows these kids because he coached them last year as freshmen. It's like you don't forget how to play basketball, You might take a little time off because of another sport, but it was just frustrating to tell a kid, hey, you need to start specializing. Obviously, basketball is not your sport, so you kind of need to just move on because you're not going to play. And so it's very discouraging, with the kid. He's not getting the opportunity to work for what they have. There's nothing expected to be given. Earn whatever spot. If there's a spot, you earn it. That's the way, all these real families that's been affected have been taught, and that's what we preach to our kids. It's, nothing political. There is, you see it everywhere in politics at all ages and whatnot. And these boys earn everything that they get. And it was just, rough at the dinner table when a child doesn't know how can they improve. And then they go to the coach and even ask. It's not the parent going to the coach and complaining and say, hey, what can I do to get better? Or how can I earn this spot? And then they tell you, well, you need to specialize. And it's just kind of like, what do you say to that?
Yeah, it seems to go against everything that we've seen recently, where the multi-sport guy is the well-rounded guy, and you look at the athletes at the at the highest level, and you find out those guys all specialized. Those guys all multi-sported when they were in high school. Why are you asking young kids to choose? And it almost feels like at the end of the day, some of these high school coaches, they hang their hat on their wins and losses, for right or wrong. And if they can get a guy to buy in and specialize, well, that maybe makes him a little better at that one sport, gives that guy a little edge on his with the wins and losses column. And it just doesn't feel to me like that's necessarily the best plan of attack in today's environments. Like, why are we discouraging kids from going out and playing everything? My gosh.
Right, and that's the thing. Is they are kids. Let them enjoy it. And again, everything we try to tell them as parents is to earn it. And some of the comments was one of them. Even Calipari encourages a second sport. You go back to looking at Willie Cauley-Stein. Kentucky basketball people will know. Calipari never saw him play a high school basketball game. Mm-hmm. He saw him on the football field. Every time he went to go visit, he was playing football.
Yeah.
They beat that horse dead. The announcers, oh, did you know he played? And it's just, even these higher level coaches are, these kids are doing that. Mm-hmm. And the team has some great talent, but it's funny, you go back to the wins and losses, and the losses are coming from mountain teams that, we barely skated by a team that started 4 football players and an 8th grader. and all of our guys, specialize in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like every team that we're going to play in our region, they're going to have multi-sport athletes. And so you can't tell me that they're not good or why, they're not obviously not specializing. And so it's frustrating as a parent when, hey, you go speak to your coach and, that's kind of the answer that's given. And then it was very nice, the football coach calls and says, hey, I would never tell your child, any child, they need to specialize in football only. They're kids. Let them play whatever they want. And these kids play baseball. He's like, when spring football practice comes, I don't expect those kids to be at spring practice. He said, the baseball varsity coach, those kids are playing. He don't want them hurt over something silly or over a drill, that a freak accident could happen, because that's going to mess his baseball season up. Some of these kids, I will say mine in particular, play summer ball. He doesn't expect them. He wants them there, encourages them to be, in summer football, and because, the season be starting when school starts. But he understands, a lot of these tournaments start on Thursday and through the weekend. He's like, look, we don't practice Friday, Saturday, Sunday during the summer. He's like, I got kids. All the coaches have kids. Our wives would kill us if we're not home on the weekends. Yeah. He's not there 7 days a week. And so, look, if you got a travel day on Wednesday, he can't be there. We understand. Thursday he's playing, we understand. Monday, Tuesday, it would be nice, to have him there and if he can make it and things like that. And so we don't, play in the fall and things like that because we move and he dedicates his time to football. And I went back to I'm going to go back to the thing I said earlier. It's like these kids don't forget how to play basketball. It's like football. One sat out last year as a freshman, comes back and earns a spot on the varsity as a sophomore and ends up leading the team in receptions and almost, 20, 30 yards away from leading the team in yards. Played all through middle school, sits out a year, and then comes back like that. He worked his way up to where he was only being in certain series to playing every snap and leading the team. It's kind of like that was earned for him. He was doing well and got that opportunity. But when you go and ask for an opportunity in basketball, it's kind of, you don't specialize, so why, you'll never get a shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, I could feel your frustration, man. I could feel it through the screen when I read that tweet. And telling people to specialize or asking players to specialize in in anything seems short-sighted and unfortunate for a coaching staff instead of inviting kids in to participate. I think we could go on and on and on about this, and it's definitely a topic I think we're hearing more and more. Whether it be from from arm injuries or repetitive motion,
right.
And
data and science behind all of it. And
yeah,
you don't even really have to get into that. It's just kind of, why are you? You could start bringing up those arguments.
Right.
Kind of pointless at this time, but it's kind of even our athletic association is trying to encourage that.
Yeah.
And then you have coaches, against it, and it's really
it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's just what do you tell them?
Well, again, we could go on and on about that all day, I believe. But while I have you, I want to get into a topic that I think you have a ton of background in, and so I think this is a unique opportunity to get your opinions on the topic of events, tournaments specifically. Coming from your background with baseball youth and with USSSA and NYBC, I have a feeling this, letting you have the mic and letting you run for a little while could take us right up until until we run out of time. But if you could remind our listeners again about your background with baseball youth, what you were doing with those guys.
Yeah, so I joined them after really running Kentucky and USSSA at the time, and joined them. And at that moment, they were starting to get in week-long events, wanting to move into individual events for the youth. They still run those events today, like you hear the Baseball Youth All-American, the Future Games, and then we even branched on to taking teams and creating teams with kids from all over and going playing at like Ripken or at Disney in Orlando and big events or bigger venues, I should say, across the U.S. And really got that going. Had a great time doing it. At the time, my oldest, he was that 11, 12-year-old age. It kind of focused really on that youth from 12-year-olds down. Opportunity to play with, kids from all over the country, making, lifetime friendships and still talk to, a lot of those kids today and seeing those kids starting to commit to schools and going off to college and, seeing these kids at 12-year-old dominating and, here they are signing with, Division I's and, being drafted and things like that. It was pretty cool. But they ran an event called the NYBC. It's the National Youth Baseball Championships. That NYBC was taken over by Steel Sports. They're located out of L.A., but really the baseball side of things runs out of Long Island, New York, in a city called Yaphank, and they have a complex there. It's one of the nicest complexes in the Northeast and in the U.S. Called Baseball Heaven. And so I wanted to follow the NYBC. I liked how that event was ran, how it was done. It got the best teams. You dealt with the major teams. I wanted to get away from like the individualized stuff. I have reasonings why on that, but followed the NYBC to New York, really grew it, worked with some big names across the country, held events from Florida, Texas, California, and the Midwest. Got to hang out and run events with Cecil Fielder and things like that. Met a lot of guys that played in the pros as well. We had a lot, where this event was broadcasted by MLB.com. We had a lot of pros. Dusty Baker coming in. He would even do coach teams and be on TV. Tommy Lasorda, guys like that. So it was pretty cool to hang out with them. And then the travel just really got too much for me. Being, kids are starting to grow. That 12-year-old's now 13, 14, moving up. I've got the other ones starting to come up and really wanted to take time with them and enjoy them. So back here, at home and getting to enjoy them. And that's where, starting their own organization and then branching with Mid-America. And I think we'll really, really grow this brand. It's a great organization, great leadership, these guys. And we're not just trying to grow it as a baseball brand. Right now it is, but our goal is to have basketball teams and softball teams and really encourage all the sports, through the Midwest here.
So let's get back to the topic at hand. We wanted to remind our listeners that you have extensive background in running events. And so that, so now when I pose the question about your opinion on current tournaments and events, you've been there and done that as far as running them. So I'll give you the, kind of a softball here that you can talk about. What is your overall thought about the event space right now, the tournament space? specifically at the older age groups?
It just the cost continues to increase every year. Trying to do a budget, it's like, okay, we spent 10,000-15,000. You might as well add $100 to every event, or more. And so the increase in cost, I know some places they're just passing that along, but it's like, what benefit are these kids getting? It's really frustrating. And then the other is this state of play. I get the state of play in some sense, because I dealt with having to file reports to cities and things like that for, to help me with costs. But then there's some events, and them, that it's just extra money for whoever's putting that event on. So it's kind of, I think that's probably the two biggest that other coaches would say is the continuing, the rising cost, and what benefit are we getting, and then this state of play, and you're not being able to play if you don't stay in their partner hotels.
Yeah, man, that's a big one for me. I've seen folks do that. Some of the biggest tournament companies in the country are implementing state of play, and I see some smaller ones doing it as well. It feels a little weird to me.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure where you stay has to do with playing baseball.
Right, and I'll give you some insight to that. So how it is necessary is there are venues out there that I could go to the city or the tourism, and they would say, okay, you're going to pay $100 a field or whatever, or whatever the case may. I'm just trying to round number. Here, your expenses, your rental expenses are going to be $5,000 for this weekend. If you can bring in X amount of people that stay here and can track it, then we will help you offset that cost. Well, as a director, absolutely. Any help I can get. These towns want to see people brought in, but how are they figuring out exactly how many? Well, the easiest would be the state of play.
That's a totally legitimate reason, and I understand that. And if folks are not exactly sure what you're talking about, it's pretty simple. A municipality, a town that has facilities, they want tournaments held there. Okay, whether you're talking about that 1-year-old or 2-year-old facility out in Albuquerque that's so beautiful, or some newer facilities down in Louisiana that are attracting eyeballs. These towns want families there. They want them to come in for the tournament so that they can stay in hotels, so that they can eat in the restaurants, so that they can have off the field entertainment in the local area. I get that. So what they do as a way to entice tournament companies is they're gonna sometimes either highly reduce the rental of those facilities, or sometimes they just give them the facility. So now the tournament company doesn't have to pay anything or pay a highly reduced fee for all the fields. Now, in return, the tournament company should be bringing people down here. Now, the state of play model, you can show receipts and you say, hey, look at everybody that stayed here. But I mean, can it be argued that if you say, hey, we've got 50 teams here and only 2 of them are from this town, wouldn't you be able to say that 48 teams came from out of town and they got to stay somewhere? Like, doesn't that solve the same purpose?
Yeah, and a lot of areas, there's some complexes that you have to. They run their own hotel. They have a dedicated person inside that park, and that's all they do. So every team has to go through this lady or this man
Sure.
to book their room. But when I would go to events and that situation would come up, because you would have local teams or somebody would drop out and you'd find somebody local to fill their spot, I had a piece of paper that I would say, coaches, I need you to fill this out. Please do it the best you can, and let me know if you're staying and where and how many rooms. So just ask your parents. I don't need details when they come in. I don't need you to ask, did some come in on Thursday, some come in on Friday, whatever. Can you kind of give me a total number? And then they could go, the tourism could go to those hotels and they would ask. And I'm not requiring a team to stay at a dump or, you can book Holiday Inn online for $80, but I'm going to have to charge you $100. It didn't make sense. So a lot of them will allow, everyone actually I dealt with, but the one that had their own in-house would allow you to do that. And so, sure, these directors, we got I won't say kickback, but we got incentivized with how many room nights.
And I was about to get to that. I'm glad you brought that up. Was that the incentives, the kickbacks? I'll use the words.
Yeah.
That's a that gets into some tricky territory for me, because now we've gone beyond the municipality, the town, the locality, and giving me the fields because we can get people there, and now we're handcuffing teams into staying there so that I can get a kickback. Those two things are very different. Those two things, I can easily show that 48 of my teams came from outside the area and they came here for a long weekend. They had to stay somewhere. So we definitely had a positive impact on the local economy. That is very different than you can't play in our tournament until you show us that you've registered at this hotel so that I can get $10 per night per room.
Yeah. And like the NYBC, I'd have California teams. I know dang good and well that if I showed that to anybody in Long Island with common sense would know that that team is staying somewhere in Long Island. All I had to do was, coach, can you fill this paper out? One sheet. How many room nights, how many people would you say, some places would ask, the ages, because they had different formulas. If they spend every dollar they spend on a hotel is $10 in our economy, or whatever the case. And, I would show a list of teams, where they're from, a schedule, so, hey, they are here, and that was sufficient. And then, a lot of times you got $10 to $15. That's that difference that you see, okay, I can book online for $80, but you're charging me $100. Well, yeah, that's going in that director's pocket, more than likely, or part of it or piece of it. I will say I had a very good umpiring crew that would travel with me for wherever I went, and I didn't get the money back, but I would say, hey, this hotel would say, hey, every 10 room nights I'll give you a room free. Well, that took care of my umpires. Instead of getting money, I would use it that way. So that was helpful, because that cut down my costs, because I trusted these guys, because umpires, in my opinion, make a director or make an event. There's a lot of pressure on them, and so I knew I could count on these guys. A lot of them military experience. Clean, change uniforms every game. Their shoes were shined. You never had to worry about them not looking properly dressed, being late, so forth. But yeah, no, that's the thing, is you're handcuffing teams and saying, I can. There's an easier way to show data. You go to Lake Point, and you can't tell me that every team that's not in Georgia is, commuting back and forth. Why are you going to charge me an additional $1,000 for not playing in this event? And we ran across that with our organization last year. And basically I said, look, we got kids, their parents work. I'm taking 3 kids with me. This coach is taking 2 with him. The parents will be here on Friday. I'll send you their receipts. But we can't stay, everybody on our team can't stay Wednesday through Sunday. From a eastern part of the state, we have parents, they're having to have 2-income households and things like that, and these people have to work, and that I'm staying somewhere. So that tells me that you're not interested in getting the data to provide it to the city or the government or the tourism commission. You're just mad because you're not getting that fee.
Yeah, and that's the part it feels like for me. It's like, you want to have a positive impact on the local economy. You can do that without handcuffing parents to a certain place,
right?
Or handcuffing a team. Some teams and some parents they simply don't want to stay at that particular place. They don't want to be told that. From a tournament company. I mean, is there a solution? Is it wrong to do it, or does it just feel bad to us and so what?
I think that if the tourism or the community or whoever's requesting or would require that info would be a little more open.
Bingo. I love that. I think you're 100% right.
I think that would be, or, hey, coaches, use the City of London tourism to fill out this information regarding your team. Because I held events here locally and for the NYBC in London, Kentucky, and I had teams from Wisconsin to Florida. In London, Kentucky, at a Little League field. I mean, there's nothing, we don't have a complex really worthy of that. Mm-hmm. But I could pull teams, and they would know, look, we got Wisconsin, Florida. They'd rolled out the red carpet here, and I could show, hey, here's what's going on. And all I asked for was, hey, all these signs in our, hotels and restaurants, welcome NYBC teams. Mm-hmm. If they're wearing a uniform, give them 10% off or things like that, or appetizer free, whatever, the case may be. But I think that those organizations need, or whoever, is helping them with these grants and the funding need to kind of chime in to kind of take it off of the directors. And that way they're like, look, they're helping me. Because everybody's coming in, and if it's just a form that they're doing, or it's a form that they can send the teams, or give the director to send teams. But again, when you can tell the directors, hey, look, we're obviously 6 hours away. We're not commuting, and again, all my parents aren't staying at this $200 a night hotel when they can't, afford it or don't like it, or, this dump for $50 a night, or whatever the case is. It's kind of like, what's the purpose?
Right. Well, and that's it. That's it. Listen, if there's a tournament director who is doing state of play, I would love your feedback. Feel free to tag me in a Twitter post, at Playing School. And because here's our feeling. The feeling of the general public, of the players and teams, it feels like you found an extra way to add $10 per room per night into your pocket. Now, I have a feeling that doesn't tell the whole story. And so, if you run a tournament and you strictly enforce the state of play policy, then then be open about why you do that and what value it's providing. And at the end of the day, if that's how you end up paying for all of your umpires and providing free lodging for them, well, tell us that. That I'd feel a little bit better about that, I think. But if you're a tournament company that's raised your price $100 each of the last 3 years, and you're enforcing the state of play policy, it just feels kind of tough, kind of hard to swallow,
And we were at an event, and I told him, he's like, "You don't have the amount of room nights." And again, it was the parents aren't coming in. I said, "You know what?" I said, "I want a refund." "No, I can't give refunds." And I said, "Okay, the check hasn't cleared. I'll go stop it."
Yeah.
Hold on. And in 10 minutes, we were on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of, I had to strong arm them, but it was like, I know that I'm not helping you with, a grant or anything. This is just an additional source of income.
Yeah.
And I know the people that, they make their living this way, but if you're going to continue to raise prices, I'm totally against it. Just, but if there is a benefit, because some of these places are expensive. Vegas, I'll give you an example. We ran the event in Vegas, and I had Cecil Fielder sweeping the park and putting bases down. They didn't provide bases. What? They didn't provide you anything.
Oh.
So you had to. So we're trying to get with a local group out there. Hey, you've got teams in every age group. If you want to work the fields for us, we'll let you in free or whatever. But Vegas really didn't give us any kind of incentive for their parks. But you have this former pro player out there busting his butt in the state of play, and really, what are they giving us back? Well, nothing. So I can't tell these. I know that. Well, if we ever come back here, I know what we brought in, but Vegas probably doesn't care because they bring people in from everywhere anyway.
Yeah. Well, listen, what's the saying? Beat a dead horse. I think we could beat this dead horse for another hour, but I know I'm short on time with you here today, so I want to end in maybe a more upbeat way with the last few minutes we have. What are you looking forward to in 2020? As far as the Mid-America prospects or any of the the events that you guys will be headed to coming up next year. What's got you excited for 2020?
Well, we've taken our high school programs and we're really focusing on team camps. These universities have opened up team camps like the University of Tennessee, Ohio State, and we can get around the state of play. We're going in there. We know how many games we're playing, our rotation, things like that. And we're going to be, getting kids right there in front of these college coaches themselves, getting to see facilities like that. I'm excited about the growth that Mid-America Prospects has had. I think we'll be very competitive in just about every age division that we have. A lot of these kids play multi-sports. We couldn't really do a lot in the fall. We kind of had to combine age groups because we had multi-sport athletes playing football. But I think that, people will, know the name, hopefully in this Midwest area, and then we can go to, regionally. They'll know who Mid-America is. We've got some kids that, have been committing this year to some schools, and we got a really good, really talented 2020 group, and then some younger kids as well that are coming up through the program, and excited to see how we can start competing, beyond the regional level and at the national level. So looking forward to those events.
You mentioned one thing at the very beginning of that is the team camps, and for those folks listening, if you're not getting your programs in team camps, you might be missing a neat opportunity. It's I've been predicting for several years now that we were going to see events begin to get smaller and smaller. The pendulum was swinging so far to the side of things where it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger events, to the point where some of these events have 300 and 400 teams in it. Now pendulum is swinging back the other way, and with these team camps, you're seeing an opportunity for basically the entire thing run on one field at the college campus, and you've got 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 teams there maximum, and you're working with the college coaches, and I see that as a huge plus. Usually the price is generally lower than a tournament, and you're getting in front of the whole staff, and sometimes many staffs. I know my friend Ryan Wheeler up at St. Joseph's, he's sort of on the front end of the team camp thing for several years now, probably 4 years now, and he gets a ton of programs out at his team camps, other college programs. And it's just it's a different way of skinning the cat instead of this signing up for tournament after tournament after tournament.
Like you said, the growth on some of these events, now you have Perfect Game and PBR going head-to-head the same weekend, 2 national events. Now a team's got to choose where they're going. Well, again, what kind of competition are where are these scouts going to go? I'll just tell you, if you're going to a big event, there's going to be scouts at different games. They're going to be watching specific kids, but if you want them all together, they're not going to be all together until you get into the brackets.
Yep.
It's just so the team camps is something that we can get in front of these colleges, kind of build a rapport with these coaches, and again, the coaching carousel, just because he's at one place, he may go somewhere next, and you can, there now you have 2 schools that you've kind of built a relationship with, and that's kind of our focus for these high school kids is getting them in front of schools and building those relationships at each level, and that's going to be our goal for 2020 and moving forward.
Well, right on, man. I appreciate you coming on today. I think that's a good spot to shut it down, because I know I'm watching the clock and I know you got somewhere to be in a few minutes. So, do you have any kind of parting words of wisdom for us, or anything you'd like to say to coaches or players or parents out there?
Yeah, just kind of in general. I mean, these kids, parents, encourage them, let them earn, what they can. Tell them to go out there and earn a spot, whether it's on their high school, their travel teams. Put it in their hands, and then give them the tools to succeed. And then again, coaches, embrace these multi-sport athletes. Kids, you're a kid once. You're going to look back. I wish I would have played this. I do it myself. I went and played one. My senior year. Regret it. I wish I would have played everything again. You're kids. You're not getting paid. Go and enjoy your high school years. Play them all, and go work hard and earn everything.
Perfect. Perfect. I appreciate it, man. Hang on one second. We're gonna hit the we're gonna stop the recording now. But if you're still listening, all of this will be at playinschool.com/Sizemore. Hang on one second, Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm having so much fun bringing these shows to you each week. If you'd like to recommend a coach for the show, please don't hesitate to shoot me a note at rich@playinschool.com or DM me on Twitter at Play in School. Again, my name is Rich Prado. I'm the founder of Play in School. My goal is to continue to create products and services that add value to you, the travel ball coaches, your players, and their parents. Visit playinschool.com to see some of the ways we're doing that. Or better yet, let's set up a call. Until next time, thank you for listening to Travel Ball Talk.